Growing up in the arcades was not always fun and games. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it was bad, and sometimes it was ugly. Coming up on The Big Retro Show.
The 80s and 90s were great times to be a kid. Join me as I dive into the world of movies, music, video games and toys, and explore what made these decades so great. This is The Big Retro Show.
Hey, what's up you guys? This is Los from The Big Retro Show, and today we are talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the arcades. Now, this is an episode that I've been wanting to do for such a long time now, simply because I grew up in the arcades and I have lots of funny, dangerous, and crazy experiences that have happened to me in the arcades. And most likely, most of you do too. So for this episode, I have enlisted some of my favorite YouTubers to come and share their stories with me and with you about what it was like growing up in the arcades. All of the danger, all of the fun, all of the funny moments, and all of the craziness that took place in the arcades. To kick it off, we are going to start with my friend Dongold. Check it out.
Hey everybody, it's Dongold, and I'm here to talk about arcade games and my personal experiences, or most memorable experiences, funny moments, just arcades in general. Arcades were a pretty important part of my gaming history, but in a different way, because most of my gaming was done on consoles. So I didn't really know how to initially approach this video when Big Retro Show asked me to be a part of it. So I sat down and I thought about it and I was like, all right, top 3 arcade moments. Like, what are the things that you remember the most? What are the stories that you remember the most from the arcade? And this is in no specific order. The first one I remember, which immediately popped into my head, was I was in college and a couple of my buddies and I were driving around. We didn't really know what we were doing. Back then you would just like drive around. Like this is probably like circa 2001, 2002, probably around that era. The arcade scene, there was like maybe 1 or 2 arcades that were like still floating around. I didn't really go to arcades that often. I think the only time I went was to play like DDR back then. And so a bunch of us had a hankering to play the XMen arcade game. It's like one of my favorite arcade games of all time. It's one of the best beat 'em ups ever. So we were driving around, we're like, we gotta go play this game. But like at the time, the idea of getting like 6 dudes around an emulator like on a computer was kind of silly. So we thought, all right, we gotta find an XMen arcade. So we hit up every single arcade in the area that we knew about, and the very last one was the the Chuck E. Cheese. So here you have these, you know, big tall dudes walking in with no kids to Chuck E. Cheese, pay to get in, whatever it was. I don't even remember if you had to pay, I can't remember, but we got in and XMen Arcade was there. I kind of knew it was there, like I used to go all the time, and I was like, there's no way they got rid of that machine, like it's just too iconic. And sure enough, they had it. They had a 6-player XMen arcade game. So we all went and we played and had a blast. And it was just really funny because like you're looking around, you see all these like moms and dads with their kids and everything, and like we were 20-somethings, like we just, why were we there? You know, we were in our late teens or early 20s, like why were we there? So that was a really warm, kind of fun memory that I had, because of all the looks that we were getting, like, what are these dudes doing here? They came in, and like we showed up, we played the game, and then we left, and that was it. So that's the first memory. The second memory I have is at Retro World Expo, not too long ago, a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago, they had a couple of the Mortal Kombat guys show up. So they had Daniel Pacina, who played like the live action version of, not the movie, but like the live action, like actual in-game Sprite was played by these actors, as you know, you may or may not know. And Daniel Pesina was one of the people who played like Scorpion, Sub-Zero, no, not Kano. He played one other person. Raiden, maybe? Maybe Raiden. I can't remember. But anyways, they had another guy there who played Jax in Mortal Kombat 2. And so, got to talking to those guys, and they were really nice, super nice guys. We ended up going to their it was like an after party for Retro World Expo. It's like if you participated at all, you were invited, to come hang out, or it was part of like the VIP package or whatever. So because I was at the expo, to host panels, I showed up and I was like, all right, let's play some games. They had a couple arcade machines there, and most importantly, they had Mortal Kombat 2 arcade up there, and they had Daniel Pesina, and they had the guy who, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, the guy who played Jax, playing these arcade games. So he stepped up to the plate and brought his Jax against my Sub-Zero. So he was the guy who played Jax, playing as Jax, and I beat him. Like, what? I mean, like, I didn't expect him to be like this, like, avid gamer. Like, maybe he is, maybe he isn't, I don't know. But we were playing the game. Somebody snapped a photo of it, and I was like, that is just too cool. So that was a pretty cool, funny moment. The last one is kind of like a group of moments. Fun Spot is the largest, or one of the largest, if not the largest, arcade in the U.S. And it's up in Laconia, New Hampshire. And so I'm kind of close to that area, maybe like 3 to 4, I think, hours away, 4 hours approximately. So I decided one year, I was like, hey, let's get a bunch of my buddies and we'll go up there and we'll have fun. We'll make an overnight of it. So we did. We went up on like a Friday night and just, or a Friday. We went up Friday during the day and we would hang out and go to the arcade. And then we would go back to our hotel and just, it was goofy shenanigans. Like we were, I think we were still in our 20s at that point, and then like we continued it even like I think after, like we did it for several years, and it was really cool to just like go with your friends like old school, but to make like a day of it, or to make like a weekend of it, where you would go and hang out at the arcade, and then at night we would go and do more adult stuff. Like we would go out to dinner and be like adults, and maybe get into some mischief, maybe go to the bar, maybe go to like a gentleman's club. Like I don't know, like we were just, it was a fun time where guys could just be guys, and it was cool to just hang out with some friends of mine and play arcade games and just be goofy. So those are probably the warmest memories that I have of the arcade, as well as like the goofiest, funniest moments of things that happened to me at the arcade. Again, I want to thank Big Retro Show for letting me kind of babble about arcade games, and I look forward to seeing everybody else's entries. Thanks, guys.
Wow, to have the opportunity to play Mortal Kombat against Jax is awesome. I can't believe that he actually played as his character. I mean, doesn't he know that like Sub-Zero and Scorpion are like way better? I guess it's all in who's playing it, right? But that's pretty cool that you got to beat him in the game and that he was using his very own character for it. So up next is one of the stories, the most outrageous stories that you are ever going to hear on the internet. I mean, there's no other way to put it, but well, I'm going to let the Game Beaters explain to you what happened.
Hello!
What's going on, y'all?
We are the Game Beaters.
Hey.
So we got together and we started talking about our stories, and we came up with one that Evil Dan here has that I think takes the cake.
It's juicy, y'all. Okay, this is when I was with my ex, and we all went out one night. We have a college union, and it's got video games, and I was playing one of my favorite games, which is NFL Blitz, and my ex comes up behind me, and she puts her arms around me. I'm like, oh, that's kind of nice, Next thing I know, she starts unbuttoning my pants, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? What are you doing? She's like, just keep playing the game. Next thing I know, a zipper's going down. I'm like, oh my God, girl, don't get us kicked out of here. So she's like, Just keep playing. And next thing I know, she starts going to town. So I'm like, how in the hell am I supposed to concentrate?
Is that why Blitz is your favorite game?
Maybe. Maybe.
Did you have to clean up the console after, or was this something?
She got pretty intense with it. I'm like, let's pump the brakes some here.
Move it to a different department,
All
right?
right, go find a
Yeah,
like a pole position
go.
cabinet. Let her play with their pole position.
Yeah.
How far did you get in the game? Did you win?
I mean, I did all right, I guess. It got kind of hard to
Got kind of hard.
concentrate, literally.
Did you learn anything from your experience?
I learned she was a freak. It was a very crazy, but something I'll never forget. Yeah, that's my story. I hope y'all liked it. I sure as hell did.
Well, Big Retro Show, I don't know if you can use this on your channel.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be a little risque.
So there you have it, folks.
Thanks to Big Retro Show for having us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We
Indeed.
appreciate that.
And back to you.
I don't know if that story was good, bad, or ugly, guys. You guys have to let me know in the comments which one you think that story was. Up next is my boy Turbo Joe. Turbo Joe has a story to tell. Turbo Joe and I are probably the same age, and we both grew up playing in the arcades, but he has a story to tell that came later in his life. So take it away, Turbo Joe.
What is up, my friends, and thank you, Los, for having me on the show today. I'm really excited. I'm a big fan of the Big Retro Show, so to be part of one of your episodes, I'm truly honored, and thank you for having me on. So, to share my story today, when Los asked me about, personal experience from the arcades when I was a kid, I couldn't remember any, personal stories. I've witnessed lots of conflict and, trash talking in the arcades, but, I always traveled with, a bunch of friends and just, really, no one really messed with us. I was kind of a non-confrontational guy, especially in person. I'm kind of quiet, low-key. I'm not really much of a trash talker. But, back in the late 90s, when I was in my early 20s and online gaming really took fire, there was, some trash talking to be had there. So you have to go back, for me, about 8 years ago. I took my son to this park, carnival, arcade on Long Island, New York, called Adventureland. Back then, my son was really young. He was probably around like 5 years old. So we get to the park, we're going on all the rides, playing some video games here and there. And, this park was really cool. It's designed for kids. It's got, a little bit of everything. Carnival-type rides, bumper cars. They even had some water rides for the kids in the summertime. He wanted to win some prizes, so I told him, at the end of the day, we'll play for some prizes. This way, whatever we win, we don't have to carry them around all day, so he got it. So I took him over to Whack-A-Mole. Now, Whack-A-Mole was a favorite carnival type game that I used to love when I was a kid. Quick reflexes, smack the mole with the hammer as quickly as you can, and whoever gets a set amount of moles, in a given amount of time wins. There's about maybe like 10 booths. There's a lot of action going on. There's kids all over the place. So I give him a couple of bucks. He waits there. He gives it to the vendor, and he's waiting for his turn. And as we're waiting, a bunch of kids, parents are giving their kids money to compete, and they're all going to go up for cute little prizes. They had Jim Henson's Muppets, displayed. They had, Bert and Ernie, Big Bird, Cookie Monster, all those guys. So it would be nice, if he wins, he gets one of the Sesame Street prizes, which he was a fan of back then. So, all these little kids around his age line up, a couple of young teenagers, whatever, it's fair game, right? At the last second, an adult flags his couple of bucks, saying that he wants to get in with the rest of the children. Now, these are all kids playing. He's going to take the last spot as an adult and play Whack-A-Mole, with his son playing alongside him to increase his chances of winning, right? Whatever. So, of course, the inevitable, after about 30 seconds, his siren goes off, wee, 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 he wins the prize. He just defeated a bunch of children, which really, I was like smoking, steam was starting to brew from my ears. I'm like, look at this son of a, So now, after the smoke clears off from my ears, I give my son, a few minutes go by, I give my son a few more bucks. Try it again. You did good. You would have won. I didn't say it like that. But you did. I said you did real good. So a few minutes later, kids are starting to line up again. You know, everyone's giving their money. And here we go again. The father, still looming around, he decides to jump in again to play against these children. Gives his money. And for me, that was it. Last second, I'm like, no, don't start the event. Here's my couple of bucks. I'm gonna play too. Now, I have like ridiculous laser sharp like cat reflexes when it comes to smacking holes. It's one of those things it was my go-to. You know, when I used to take, you know, girls back in the, you know, the 90s when I go on dates, go to the carnival, the whack-a-mole was my bread and butter for guaranteed winning. So and behold, we play. 10 seconds later, I'm like, ding, ding, ding. I win, and that's it. I won. I gave the big bird to my son. I gave him a little look, and went about my day. Justice was served. I don't know. Maybe it's just the competitive nature in me. I didn't want to see my son lose again to an adult. You know, losing to children, you know, that's fair game, but you know, that just really irritated the crap out of me. And that is probably the most dramatic encounter I've had. You know, like I said, I'm low key, but I don't know. That's my story to share. And again, thank you, Lowe's, for having me on. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
Wow, Turbo Joe, thank you so much for sharing that story. I can't even get my girls to go into the arcade and play games. They get bored really easy. They'd rather look at their phones. I don't know why. I don't know what I did wrong as a parent. But it is what it is. And now it's time for me to share my story with you of what happened to me in the arcade. So I have two of them for you. So when I was a kid, you know, part of growing up was going to the movies with your friends. And back then, the movies had the biggest arcades you could ever see. We're talking rooms full of wonderful machines. So I went to see a movie. I forget which one it was, but I do remember the game I was playing, and that was a 4-player Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle by Konami. Everybody knows that game. And so the movie was going to start. And I was the only person on this machine, and my friend was just kind of watching me play and waiting for me and kind of prodding me to lose because the movie was starting and we were going to miss it. So I was playing. I didn't really pay attention to him. When I play these games, I hardly pay attention to anything around me except the game. And so this guy comes up with his friends, and apparently he says something to me that I could not hear what he was saying to me. But shortly after that, I died, and it was time to go to the movies. Time to go into the movies. He actually had walked away before I had died, and while we got our popcorn and our drinks, after exiting the arcade, we were walking to the movie. And this guy and his friends were waiting for us in front of the movie theater where our movie was playing. And so he was livid. He was mad. And it turns out that, he asked me, why are you dogging me, dude? And I'm like, what? He was like, why are you dogging me? And I'm like, when I went up there to ask you if I could play with you, you ignored me. And I was just looking at him like, I didn't hear anything you said. I'm sorry about that. But he was still persisting, and his friends kept egging him on, saying, yeah, why did you dog him? Why did you dog our boy? I guess that was the word back in the day, was dog. That's like a diss, how it is right now. But I just kept telling him that I didn't hear them, and it's true, I didn't hear them, but he was so mad that I didn't acknowledge him when he asked me if he could play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with me. Now, I know you might be asking yourself, well, why was he asking you if he could play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with you if it's a 4-player machine and anybody can walk up and put a quarter in? My thoughts exactly. Why in the hell was he asking me if he could join me when anybody can walk up and play the game? So yes, nearly got my butt kicked, but I avoided it. And that's what it was like in the arcades. You know, you always had to watch your back. You always kind of had to be wary of the people not to mess with. But this one was a little bit different in that I ignored him, and I didn't even know he asked me anything. So that's the first story. So the second story I have was when I was a little bit older. So the previous story that I told you about happened when I was probably around 12. This story happened when I was in high school, and I believe I was a sophomore or a junior. The memory is fuzzy. Anyhow, across the street from the high school that I used to attend, there was a comic book store, and this comic book store had a bunch of arcades. I remember WWE WrestleFest was there, Strider was there, and Street Fighter 2 was there. Now this was the height of the Street Fighter 2 craze that took place in the arcades back then. And so every lunchtime, every opportunity that I had, sometimes I would cut class, I would be at this comic book store playing Street Fighter 2. Well, there was one day that I went over to the comic book store, and you know, it was crowded as usual. I walk up to my machine, and you know, I played as, I believe it was Blanca against this guy who was there. This another schoolmate of mine. I didn't really know who he was, but I kind of, you know, knew who he was. And so we were playing Street Fighter 2, and you know, we were going back and forth. He would beat me, I would beat him. He would beat me, I would beat him. And that is when the trash talking started. So we started trash talking each other, and you know, one thing led to another, and it was time to go. The bell had rung at the school, and you know, I had to leave, and so I left. But that wasn't the end of it. So the days after this trash talk session happened, he would see me around school and just kind of give me that look, you know, that looked like he wanted to fight me. And you know, I would just ignore him, and you know, whatever. I would be putting on my clothes in the locker room for PE, and he would run by and say something stupid, and I would just ignore him. And you know, it went on like this for a couple of weeks, where you know, he would just say stuff to me and like try to make me fight him, all because of Street Fighter 2. And so there was one day when my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, were in an argument together, and I was supremely agitated. Well, we were fighting in the middle of the quad area of the school, and guess who comes running up to say something to me about Street Fighter 2? That's right. It was the guy that I was fighting many weeks ago on Street Fighter 2. And I don't know what he said. I really don't. All I know is that I saw red and we started fighting. Not my proudest moment. You know, we got caught like almost right away because the principal's office was right next to the quad. So I don't know what I was thinking. Anyways, we got caught. I got suspended, he got suspended, and you know, it was not, you know, my proudest moment. Later on down the line, the guy actually starts dating the sister of my then girlfriend, and we used to go on dates together, double dates together, and of course we would never ever talk about Street Fighter 2 or our fight or anything like that. And as the years progressed, you know, they were on again, off again. But as the years progressed, we became friends. And that's how it usually happens, right? When you fight someone, is that you usually become friends. And he's really a good guy. And we have never played Street Fighter 2 since then, I have to tell you. But, you know, if we did, I would probably beat him. And that's only because I have a Street Fighter 2 machine in my man cave. So anyways, guys, yeah, I mean, those were the stories, and I have several others. I know that you guys probably have some stories too to share about the arcade, and let me know in the comments. Also, let me know in the comments where you think these stories fall. Were they good? Were they bad? Were they ugly? Or were they just plain funny? Anyhow, guys, thank you very much to everyone who appeared on this collaboration. Make sure you check out the channels of Dongled, the Game Beaters, and Turbo Joe. I will leave a link to their channels in the description of this video. And yeah, if you like this content, please subscribe to the channel. It only helps me grow. And until the next one, I will see you on the next Big Retro Show. Cheers.